This guy's confession shocked even the FBI, and the way he was just so cool, calm, and collective about talking about it was even more disturbing. So, in the morning of 2012 in Alaska, there was this coffee shop called the Common Ground, and the bartender who was supposed to go to work that morning went went to the coffee shop as usual, but when he tried to open the door, he noticed that the door was already unlocked because after putting the key in, trying to turn it, and it was already unlocked. It was already weird for him to see that it's unlocked because the girl who had been working the previous day was obviously going to lock up before going home. Like, it's that simple. But and she has been there for just about a month. The I wish she never took that job. She had been there for only about a month, but she seemed to have learned how to do everything around. She had picked up on what's supposed to be done, and she definitely knew how to lock up. So the guy was like, it was weird, but maybe she just something happens, and you kind of understand that it's not like it's crazy. At least at that time, that's what he thought. So he goes into the bar, and things are beginning to look weird because everything just looks like she just picked up her bag and left without actually winding down, closing up, probably turning the chairs upside down. Yeah, I guess. And I don't know, but like the normal lockup procedure was not followed. There was nothing done. It seemed like she was still mid shift when she left. So there were things just lying around, and it was weird. But he's trying to like figure out what happens. And when he goes to the where they keep the money, he gets there and tries to open it, and that's when he realizes that it's as open as the doors. It was not locked, and as soon as he draws it open, he realizes that it's empty, and it's absolutely empty. And that's when he knows that, okay, we have been robbed. There's no The girl was supposed to be working, Samantha, last night is nowhere to be found. There is no money, and the store was not locked. So obviously he had to call his boss and let him know, oh, it seems like we have been robbed. Now, that previously, it seems like a series. Okay, the night before that happens, the Samantha's boyfriend was to come and pick her up, and Samantha was the last person to leave the shop, and she was the one who was responsible for locking up. But at 8:30, which is about 30 minutes after when she would normally lock up, the boyfriend came there, and the reason he was late was because he was being held back by his job. So we can't blame him there. So he was 30 minutes late, and when he arrived there, he did not see her hanging around. That day she did not have a car, so he was obviously supposed to come and pick her up. But when he came there, he did not see her hanging around, and it did not seem like something crazy was going on inside because the lights were off and the coffee shop seemed closed. So he leaves his car, and it was so cold that day. He leaves his car, goes to the window, and tries to like peek in, and everything seems just dark, and it seems there is no one there. So he goes back to the car, and that's when he gets to his phone because they had been having a fight. They have been having a fight previously, so he felt like maybe she did not want to see him, which is obviously quite normal. Maybe she did not want to see him, and she had her dad come and pick her up from work. But he just wanted to make sure that she was fine and she had gotten home safe because he was there to pick her up. So he tries to text her, and it's like, okay, did you already get home? Just try to make sure that she had gotten home safe. And there is no response. So after being there for a few minutes, he's worried about her. They had been fighting previously because she accused him of cheating on him with another girl, and he was not taking it seriously. So they are still fighting. It led to a big fight between them. So he's just like, okay, there is that fight, but he's not sure if she's home safe and stuff like that. So he decides to leave the coffee shop and drive to her house to at least make sure she's at home and she's safe. When he arrives there, he meets her dad, who is the only one at home, and he was a single father, but he was the only one at home. He comes to answer the door, and he tries to explain to her, okay, I came to make sure Samantha is home and fine and stuff like that. And that's when the dad is like, no, she hasn't come home, she hasn't texted and stuff like that. So they begin to get worried, and both of them go into her house and sit down and try to text her. The dad is calling, he is trying to text and stuff like that, just to get her to respond or something. And at some point they get a text message, but it is kind of weird because she's really close with her dad. They're like super close, and she's texting with the boyfriend in this case, which is weird because she's obviously pissed at him, but she's texting him and she says she's fine. She just wants to hang out with some friends for a few days, but she'll be fine, and no need to worry about her. He should tell her dad about that, which is like, the dad does not get it. They are super close, and he raised her. He does not expect that type of behavior from her. She's not someone who is just going to pick up and run off like that. So the guy shows the dad the message, and all of those, they're just worried. They're trying to text some more and call and at least get some more information from her to at least make sure that she's fine. Why should I should stop saying at least. Okay, to at least to make sure she's fine. And that's when the next day, they have no response throughout the night. So the next day, the father goes to the police to report his 18-year-old missing daughter, because yeah, they're not getting any signal from her to show that she's fine. And when they go to report that she's missing, the dad tries to call the owner of the bartender, the bar where she was supposed to be at last night. And that's when they get informed that it seems they have been robbed and no one is able to get a hold of Samantha. So at this point, we have a confused police, a missing Samantha, and a robbed bar. And they have not, the police try to go to the bar and to see like were there signs of struggles and stuff like that, but there's no sign of struggle inside or outside. And the bar has a panic button. That button has not been pressed, and that's disturbing. Well, there is the security footage of the bar, and the owner of the bar was like, okay, as soon as we get this, we'll make this available to you. And that's when they're beginning to think like, okay, even though the message sounds weird, but Samantha is beginning to look like the suspect at this point, because she's nowhere to be found, and the money is nowhere to be found. The panic button has not been pressed, so they're beginning to look at her in that range. But what's disturbing is, how did she get out of there? Because the police have also tried to call a lot of her friends, and all of them are like, I haven't seen her. Family members are like, okay, she's not with us and stuff like that. But they're beginning to wonder, how did she get out of there? Because it was a really cold day. It's not like the type of city you can just walk around. It was really cold. She could not really walk around, and she did not have a car with her. So how did she get out of that situation? But soon after, they're going to get their answer, because the footage was going to be shown. Now, the footage starts up at about 8 p.m. And this is why I'm like, why was the boyfriend not there on time? He has to quit the job, because if he was there on time, this horror should not have happened. Probably, I guess. But it starts at about 8 p.m. and it's a normal day for Samantha. She's just there working alone, and she's just having a normal day. Like, she has no idea what, oh boy, she has no idea what the future looks like, and she's just having a normal day. But she soon, it shows like, the camera is not able to show who is outside, but it shows that someone comes in for an order. So she turns and like knows that, okay, acknowledges that there's someone here. You can see from her behavior, she acknowledges there's someone here, takes their order, and she goes to make their order. And when she's done with it, she turns back to hand it over to them. But you can see her expression changes. She soon lifts her hands up, like kind of in a surrendering mood, I guess. She lifts her hand up, and then that's when someone who we cannot see, she's been probably instructed by the person to kneel down and face the back of the camera. So she kneels down and she's there. Later on, she stands up, goes to where the cash register is, and opens it, scoops out all of the money, and seems to hand it over to someone, and then closes it and goes back to the kneeling position. Soon after, she she leaves and turns off the light, and that's when it's shown that someone, you can see how they stretch out their hand to tie up her hands, and you're unable to see them, but you can see someone stretched out their hand and tied up her hands, and then they walked in. But because lights are off, the footage is horrible, and they have like a cap, I guess, pulled down to their face, which covers their face, so you cannot, they're unable to, we're unable to identify the person. Now the person jumps through the window where they were ordering their drink from, and shuts it behind them. As they have her hands tied, they pull a gun to her back and just like direct her to get out of the bar with them, and they drive off with her in a white pickup truck. Now that's all the police have, and everyone is confused because there is no way to identify the man. They know he's a male, but there's no way to identify him. So her father tries to do all he can to gather as many people as possible to do a search, and he kind of brought a lot of light to it, as the news was kind of covering it, and the case grabbed the attention of a lot of people. That is when a lot of people donated money for, like, okay, it's a reward, yeah, people donated money for a reward. And why did I forget that word? People donated money for a reward. So if you can bring up any information leading to finding Samantha, you get a reward. But still, and at this point, the FBI is involved, but they were still not getting any fruits. No results were coming up. Nothing. No good leads were just coming up. After about 3 weeks of her being kidnapped, there is a text message that is sent to them with Samantha's phone, and it directs them to this parking lot where they should go, and direct them to a parking lot to a parking spot where they should go and just find something there. So they send Samantha's father and Dwayne, her boyfriend, send the message to the police, and they also are driving there, and they arrive about 15 minutes before the police, and they just walk around until they found the spot that was directed to them, and it's just a sign. And on that sign there was something stamped to it, a little bag that has, like, inside of it, it stated like they wanted a ransom of $30,000 and a picture of Samantha. But in this picture, she's just like, you know, when this is a camera and someone is just looking this way, yeah, like she was not really facing the camera. And besides the picture, he has like a newspaper for that day, for a day, which is like it was 2 weeks ago. So as of the photo, it shows that Samantha was alive, or Samantha is alive, as of 1 week ago, from when they arrived, from when they received the photo, which is sort of a breakthrough, because at least now they have hope that she's still alive. 3 weeks after being missing, as of 1 week ago, she's still alive, and they have some hope, they have something to look forward to. And now at this point, the father was advised by the FBI to deposit half the ransom so they can catch whoever tries to come and withdraw the money, which is exactly what he did. Now the police were to be notified every time withdrawal is made from that account, because it was Samantha's account. She obviously had her stuff with her, so whoever goes to withdraw the money from an ATM with her card, they are going to be able to find out who that is. But on several occasions, there were like 3 or 4 withdrawals being made, but for 3 of the withdrawals, the police never really got any footage, because whenever they go there and they see the footage of who withdraw the money, is still a male with sunglasses, and he's covered his face so well, and they are unable to identify the person. But one of the camera footage gave a little bit of a lead, which is actually what led to this arrest, because it gave a lead. This was an ATM in Alaska, and the person was smart enough to withdraw the money in different areas. So this was in Alaska, and his car, the car he was driving, was captured by the ATM's camera. So at this point, they have a car, and they're looking for this car, and that's when the police notified, like, patrol agents around there. Okay, that's the car they're looking for. And one of the officers saw the car, found the car parked outside of a hotel, and he decided to sit in his car and wait for some guy who looks like he's in his 30s to walk into that car and starts driving. And he's like, oh my gosh, just do something wrong. And he's holding his gun, he's holding what they used to check the speed limit. He's just holding it like this, please drive faster. And the guy does like he just goes like above the speed limit, 2 miles per hour, and the guy's like, jackpot. So he pulls him over, collects his, because I don't know if I told you guys this, but this is happening in Texas. He pulls the guy over. The ATM that caught the guy's car was in Texas. As he pulls this guy over, asks for his credentials, and he saw he lives in Alaska, and was like, damn, this is it. And he's 34, and he was just like, no, this must be the guy who is doing this. When they checked the boot of his car, guess what? It matched the mask he was wearing whenever he went to withdraw the money. And this guy is called Isreal. Now, when the police arrest him, obviously, but he's like, I have no idea what he's talking about. But they also found Samantha's information and stuff in the boot of his car. He obviously used her card to withdraw the money, but he's still acting like he has no idea what happened. But when the police told him like, okay, this is all we already have all of this on you, so like, just start talking. That's when he decided to talk. He was like, okay, I'll talk about it, but fine, I need like I need an Americano, bread with peanut butter, and a cigar. He just wanted to have like a really nice table where he tells them the full story of what happened to Samantha. And so they got it for him. And the next part of this video is just going to be like, it's not going to be fun. So if you're so sensitive, I would advise you just skip and subscribe and come next time. But this is what happened. These are the events. This is what he did after he kidnapped Samantha. Gies explained that on that same day when he kidnapped Samantha, when he entered into, well, he just decided that day, he felt like, oh, what am I gonna do today for fun? Okay, I'm going to rob this bar. But when he finally went there, he was just hoping that, okay, he's going to meet some teenager just working there, and he was right, he met Samantha. But when he arrived there, he decided that he's not only going to rob the bar, but he's also going to he's also going to collect Samantha. Is the word correct? Okay, collect. Okay, he's going to pick her as well. And when he got into the bar, he put some cloths in her mouth. That's why she was so silent and she could not make any sound. And when they went into the car, he just told her, it's like, if you try to just do anything out of the order, I'm just going to kill you. He literally had his gun at her, pointed at her. So he drove around, and they drove around for a bit, and they went to Gies' house, which was just outside of Anchorage. And that's where his girlfriend and his 10-year-old little girl were asleep in that same house. He took her. When he arrived, he just went and made sure that his family was still asleep. Then he went and took Samantha, kept her in the shed, and just tied her up so she was just really tied her up against the wall, and tied her really tight, and she was so uncomfortable. But he just wanted to told her not to make any sound, and to make sure that any sound she ended up actually making would not go out, he turned up his radio really high. And then he went back into the house to make sure his family was asleep. And he just told her that he just needs a ransom from her family. And she was like, dude, I'm working at the bar. Do you really think my family has a lot of money? And she's like, okay, her family is really poor, and they will not be able to get the money. He's like, it's okay, they're going to figure it out and raise the money somehow. So Gies goes into his house at this point, and he gets a drink, chills a little, and comes back to Samantha. And Samantha is like asking him how is the ransom situation going. He's like, yeah, it's fine, I spoke to your dad and they're figuring it out, you'll soon be out of here. So he lets her go. He releases her and just lets her have some space and relax a little. And she was like, she felt a little bit relieved. She felt good, like maybe she's going to be able to get out of here somehow. And then he gave her some cigarettes to smoke, and just like encouraging her to make sure that everything is going to be fine, and he's figuring it out. Now he goes back into the house and later comes back and ties her up tight, like worse than he did the first time. apparently his sick mind just wanted to see her being a little bit happy, hoping, just wanted to see the hope in her eyes that she's going to be released out of there, when he actually had zero plans. Because at that point, remember I said he asked for a ransom 3 weeks after she was abducted. Well, at that point he had not spoken to anyone, and he had no plans of letting her go. So his daughter, then he goes back to the house to make sure that his family was still asleep, and then he comes back, and this time she's frightened. He said it smelled like urine and sweat, and she was just really frightened. So she was really obedient according to what he said. She was like super calm and quiet. He gets in there, assaults her, and he says she knew what was going to happen. How sick can he be? Okay. He assaults her, and then she just looks at him quietly, and she's like, "Are you going to kill me?" And he told her yes. And as he puts on his gloves to kill her, she did all she could to talk him out of it. She didn't scream, she didn't make a sound, she was just trying to talk him out of it. But at about 4 a.m. that same day that she was abducted, he stabbed a knife into her from the back and then strangled her. And all this while planning a really family trip, a really good family cruise, luxury family cruise with his daughter just like a few feet away in the sleeping in the house. So at about 4 a.m. he gets all of that done and rolls her over and turns off the heater, because he had turned on the space heater to keep her a bit warm. And at this point he turns it off, shuts everything down, shuts down the shed, rolls her in the top and just keeps her there, and goes back into the house. This is about morning. Goes to the house, gets ready, prepares with his daughter, and they go for their 2-week-long luxury cruise in New Orleans. And yeah, Samantha is there, just left in his shed. As sickening as it is, he spent the whole night just taking someone's life, and by 5 a.m. in the morning he goes on a trip with his daughter. And when they came back from the 2-week-long trip, he went back to the shed, rolls her over, and sees that, oh, maybe because it was really cold, there was no heater on, and she looked really lively. So he decides to dress her up, like braid her, put on some makeup, braid her hair, and this is the worst part. He stitched her eye open so she looks lively for the photo. And he took the Daily News for that day and took a picture of it, and that's how he got the picture he used to ask for the ransom. So if you want to Google those photos, good luck with that. Well, that's what he did. And apparently after he did that, he chopped her into pieces and disposed of her body in a frozen lake nearby. And that was what happened to Samantha. But after all of this, it shows that Israel was not this is not Mr. Israel's only victim. She was not his first victim. He said he had already killed a couple before, and apparently he had planted, what do they call it, kill kits everywhere around the country, just like, so whenever he felt like wherever he was, he had everything he needed to commit a crime and to kill his victims. Anywhere he was, and he felt like he wanted to kill someone, that's what he was going to do. He'll just go into one of those kill kits, dig it up, and then go and commit the crime he's going to commit. His explanation for that was that he felt like he just really there's something about people dying that really made him feel good. He just really enjoyed watching them die. That was his explanation for that. He really just enjoyed watching people die. And he didn't have a type. He was in for everybody and everybody and anybody, no matter where you are, old, young, whatsoever. He just, whenever he just had the feeling to do that, he would dig up one of his kill kits and get a target. And he explained to the FBI that as soon as he saw Samantha, he was like, yeah, I knew I was gonna kill her. And every other thing was just like an after effect, just trying to make her have some hope, that she was going to survive. And every other thing was just like that he just knew he was going to kill her. And maybe he would have gotten away with it if he did not ask for a ransom. But that was the sad case of Samantha. And Israel ended up taking his own life in jail after naming just the couple he killed. So as of now, people just know about three cases that he had killed. But He had about 11 drawings, so if you're in his jail cell, so maybe those are some of his victims. No one will ever know, since he ended up taking his own life in jail. Well guys, if you liked the video, subscribe and let me know what you want to see in the next video. Whatever case you want to see, just let me know in the comments below, and see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.